Okay, so for you out there in YouTube land, we're continuing with our reading and discussion of Dante. We're in the Purgatorio and we are in Canto 3, the Purgatorio. And we worked on the first 43 lines last week. And so we're going to continue uh, going down from 43 onward. And to help everybody get oriented, Dee Dee is going to give us a summary from John Chiardi of the whole content. Okay, Dee Dee.
And Chiardi's title of this summary is Anti-Purgatory, the Base of the Cliff. Characters: the late repentant, class 1, the contumacious, is that it?
Well
Yes,
pronounced. Well pronounced.
And Manfred. We probably get to Manfred today. The souls scatter for the mountain, and Dante draws close to Virgil as they both race ahead. The newly risen sun is at Dante's back. He runs, therefore, with his shadow stretched long and directly before him. Suddenly he becomes aware that there is only one shadow on the ground, and he turns in panic, thinking Virgil is no longer at his side. Virgil reassures him, explaining that souls are so made as to cast no shadow. His remarks on the nature of souls give him occasion to define the limits of reason in the scheme of creation. The poets reach the base of the cliff and are dismayed to find that it rises sheer, offering no way by which they may climb. While Virgil is pondering this new difficulty, Dante looks about and sees a band of souls approaching so slowly that they seem scarcely to move. These are the first of the late repentant souls the poet will encounter. In life, they put off the desire to grace. Now, as they were laggard in life, so must they wait. What was I? So must they wait before they may continue their purification. The souls in this band are all souls of the contumacious. They died excommunicated, but surrendered their souls to God when they were at the point of death. Their punishment is that they must wait here at the base of the cliff for 30 times the period of their contumacy. One soul amongst them identifies himself as Manfred and begs Dante to bear a message to his daughter Constance in order that she may offer prayers for Manfred's soul and thereby shorten his period of waiting. Manfred explains that prayer can greatly assist the souls in purgatory. He also explains how it is that though contumacy is punished, no act of priest or pope may keep from salvation a soul that has truly given itself to God.
Better late than never.
Good summary, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wonder if Constance is the Constance that we meet, that we will meet a long time from now in
Yeah, why would he have
Paradiso.
named his daughter Constantine? Oh, you mean in heaven?
In Paradiso, we meet, I believe it's
Uh-huh.
in like Canto 2 or 3 of Paradiso, we meet a Constance.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a coincidence,
Hmm, hmm.
probably quite deliberate.
Yeah. Is it Constance or Costanza? Is
Well,
it
Well,
one?
here,
you may have me on that one, John, and I don't
yeah,
know.
Giardi,
I suppose that our commentators, one of our commentators, would clear that up for us.
hmm,
I would like to point out that we are actually in the position of the people in the anti-purgatory position. with the sheer cliffs, that if you imagine an understanding of Dante's Commedia as being a sheer cliff, and that we have to plod our way through the Inferno and then go through all the steps in purgatory, we have our own sheer cliff, literary sheer cliff that we're working on. So, all right.
Okay, there's a Constance and there's a Costanza. So they're two different people.
Okay, and
Not
can you tell us where Constance is?
Constance, daughter of Manfred, married Peter the Third of Aragon. Constanza, Empress, mother of Frederick the Second.
Okay.
And well, you know, I'm just looking at her purgatory notes. Now I have to go to her Paradiso notes to see which one is in paradise.
It's okay.
Okay.
No,
What
it's
you have done is you
Constanza.
pointed out to me that I have confused two similar but not equal names. So it was Constanza in Paradiso. All right. Any other questions or comments before we move on and have Anne read from line 43? I guess that's a no. So, Anne, you can begin any moment.
I speak of Aristotle and of Plato and many others, and here bowed his head, and more he said not, and remained disturbed. We came meanwhile unto the mountain's foot. There, so precipitated, we found a rock that nimble legs would there have been in vain. Twixt Lerici and Turbia, the most desert, the most secluded pathway is a star, easy and open, if compared with that. Who knoweth now upon which hand the hill slopes down, my master said, his footsteps staying, so that who goeth without wings may mount. And while he held his eyes upon the ground, examining the nature of the path, and I was looking up around the rock, on the left hand appeared to me a throng of souls that moved their feet in our direction and did not seem to move. They came so slowly.
You know what? I have a question right where you began. I speak of Aristotle and Plato. Do we know what that refers to? Are they there at the foot?
It goes back to the previous line. We kind of picked up mid-sentence. There were some semicolons there, Aditi, but I think he's talking of Plato and Aristotle in limbo.
Yeah.
Because they were pre-Christian, so they're consigned to limbo. I think that's what he's talking about.
They were not baptized.
Correct. I think that's it. That's what my note says.
Yeah.
Others are others feeling the same?
Yeah.
So they are like yearning endlessly in vain from the last verse.
Yes.
Okay.
Desiring without fruit, those whose desire would have been quieted, and has ever given them for grief. I think that says it all. They've, in a sense, they're grieving over what they might have had if they'd been born at a different time, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
A lot of this canto is actually to point out the limits of reason.
Okay.
In the Inferno, we actually had quite a bit of discussion in the Inferno about the value of reason for keeping desires in control. But this is a turn, a clear turn, I believe, where Dante is starting to say, reason's pretty good, but reason alone is not going to get you there. And let me give you the example of Aristotle and Plato, among the most intelligent and reasonable people in the world ever, but they're in limbo. They're not even in purgatory.
So, I guess I would reach out to the rest for their views on this because I'm wondering, I'm sort of projecting my own views in. So do you think that Dante is maybe touching upon the unfairness of this? I know when I talk to evangelical Christians, it's only Christians who go to heaven. And I'm thinking, okay, so what about the people who've never heard about it? Right? And in this case, through no fault of their own because they were born at the wrong time, they don't get to go to purgatory and on their way to heaven. And I mean, this strikes me as incredibly unfair. And so is Dante maybe touching upon the unfairness of this, or is this just me reading into it? Because I think it's unfair. Is he just saying, like, this is the way it is?
For
Or
now.
is there maybe a comment that it may be the way it is, but this isn't really right?
But I think if Dante expressed so that we could get it, that these are good souls and they can't get to heaven, maybe he wanted us to get that impression. I don't know, maybe. I'm certainly far
Wants
from
us to,
sure.
yes. John? John, you were going to say something?
Oh, you're talking to me? Oh, well, I was thinking something. You must have just picked up on that. No, I agree with that, but I was thinking about what I think Dee Dee said that, yeah, I think that it's hard to take that away. He's certainly not making a very strong point here, but he's not, at least he's not certainly expressing it about, he's not saying nothing himself about fairness or himself as a character or as the poet here, except in a very, I guess, poetic, understated way. And I was, what my thought was, it goes back to, I guess to me, the origins of the concept of limbo are kind of lost in the shroud or the darkness of the church history, I guess. And it seems to me that this is, why would he's writing this great poem to make some points about this cosmology here, or this eschatology, I guess you'd say,
Right.
that it has to do with how do people deserve, or is there fairness in any of this? And so the overall scheme is really a comment, I think, on fairness, I think. And is this fair? It's a question, this, I guess.
Yeah,
I
and
think
the poignancy, they have.
There is. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, and I think, I guess that's the way he has Virgil bowing his head and saying nothing, but he remains disturbed by this. I mean, he himself is grieving, I think.
right, because Virgil's in that category.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And yes. But I think, you know me, I like workarounds for these people. And I think that the only reason that Dante is pointing this out is to put the fear in us. He's not really telling us that, I mean, my opinion, I don't think he's really telling us that Aristotle and Plato are going to be in limbo forever. But he's
No.
trying to make it very clear to us that being smart and being reasonable is not going to cut it.
Yeah,
But-
well, I think that
Yeah.
this is where he built the ambiguity into the whole, all
Yeah,
of
he's
the
trying to knock us off
story.
of our surety. He wants us to succumb to the idea, I think, that we need faith and we need a kind of miracle if we're going to get beyond limbo.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing about Dante, I'll say, is that he never, if he ever strays far from orthodoxy, it's never very far. But he seems to want to stay within the structure of Catholic orthodoxy, and maybe point out contradictions at the very most, contradictions or subtle contradictions or paradoxes. Well,
Maybe it's the difference between his own heart and his intellect.
yeah,
And
yeah,
what is his rational side and
there you go. Sure, yeah,
his feelings.
well put, yeah.
There is another level of unfairness. There are pre-Christians in Inferno apparently being punished for violating Christian codes of conduct. So you have Epicurus, because he said the soul dies. Epicurus is among the heretics because he says the soul does not outlive the body.
Yeah,
Well, if he was pre-Christian or among the carnal sinners, why should Semiramis be there? She wasn't violating any Christian
yeah,
codes of conduct since they didn't exist yet.
yeah, yeah.
Or why should whoever the one was who was cursing
Achilles.
Jupiter?
Achilles. was the-
The guy who was given the finger, the double
Capaneus,
finger.
Caius, was it Caius? Caiaphas? I'll find it.
Capaneus, I think.
Okay.
Well, Caiaphas too, yeah.
But
But
so
you're right.
so there is, I don't know if it's an inconsistency or an unfairness, but these pre-Christians are judged by Christian standards.
Mhm.
Why can't we give these good pre-Christians a break too? But
Well, I think that
That's a good point.
It's a good argument, yeah.
but Dante is talking to his readers.
but
That's
Virgil,
his audience. And I think he will use any argument to try to save our souls. And he will use any example to try to dissuade us from the loose and evil paths. So, and including only being reasonable.
Maybe he's talking to contemporary readers in one way and to posterity a different way.
Yeah, I don't know if he even has a concept that he can talk to posterity. I think he's using posterity as a way to talk to contemporary and future readers.
I totally disagree with you there. Totally.
Well, I'm
We
shocked.
could argue that
I
some
don't know
more.
what I'm going to be able to do with kind of, but I will take a couple of deep breaths and I'll be okay.
Okay.
Well, it's fair to
Don't
say,
worry.
his logic, if there's a logic to any of this, is that basically, if you're not a Christian, you don't deserve any better than limbo, but you certainly never can gain paradise. So, or even
Except Trajan.
Trajan.
Yeah. And remember, we will have the man on the banks of the Indus question raised a long time from now, but it will come up.
I mean,
So this is not a totally settled point in Dante's mind, and I will continue
that's true, yeah.
until shown the evils of my way, that Dante is in this case using Aristotle and Plato as examples to say, hey, you think you're pretty reasonable, but let me tell you, reason it alone is not going to get you there. You're going to have to bend your knee. You're going to have to go to the faith level in order to get there. It's nice that you're reasonable, but if you rely on it too much, you're going to lose the way. I think it's totally strategic on his part.
Yeah.
I hope I'm using strategy in the right way.
That does bring to mind, I guess, in a way. It seems to me, and I'm going to go and research this. I think that I've read someplace that there are some Hellenistic philosophers or maybe even historians of that time. Maybe John would know better. I guess John, you might know better. That may have commented on whether or not Plato or Aristotle might have actually made it into heaven, because I think there are some Christian Platonists, and they've admired Plato very much as maybe not Aristotle so much. I don't know if they knew about Aristotle, but I think that they knew about Plato, certainly like, in the second or third century. And there's a great effort, as I recall, to incorporate Platonic thinking and concepts into Christian thought and to reconcile it.
Mhm.
I
So,
think you can still take Aristotle too, John. I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. I didn't mean to interrupt, but since I'm
no,
going, I think Aristotle's good too, because, okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Well, I wasn't finished, and I guess only to comment again this point that my recollection is that Aristotle seemed to have been lost for several centuries until he was introduced back by the time of Thomas Aquinas through
Yes,
Averroes and
yes.
Avicenna, and so
Right.
that's my take on that. But you might be right. I don't know.
Well, St. Thomas Aquinas is Aristotelian
Right.
in a lot of his thinking. So, this is another example of the value of reason. The question is, can their souls be saved?
Yeah.
And this is, I think, at least in my mind, this is a simple bureaucratic thing on the part of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
the church wants people to be baptized in the name of, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
I want to hear what Dave was commenting. Did you actually make your comments, or was it answered?
It was. This is the
Oh,
problem
okay.
when I didn't pick up the social cue and cut in. He actually said, when he carried on, he said exactly what I was going to say. I mean,
Oh,
I would just, to your point, John, I would merely add that it is ironic if Aristotle doesn't get into heaven, because of course Aquinas is the great Aristotelian
Yeah.
and uses it to promote the cause of Christianity, and yet Aristotle's, kind of outside the gates. So it's interesting. And Cleveland John, I think I put our character man, the guy you were looking for. I think I put him in the chat. I think that's the guy.
Mhm.
Japanese.
Capanius?
Japanese. Okay.
He's the
Japanese?
guy who was cursing Jupiter in the Inferno.
Mhm.
maybe he is talking about Aristotle and Plato because Plato invented the concept of the soul. So we are dealing with souls here. And Plato started with the concept of the soul started with Plato.
I did not know that.
The soul was divided in three parts: the logo, timo, eros.
I'm sure there would be a few in Indian philosophy and religion that would argue with Plato inventing the soul. But nevertheless, he did say a lot about souls. But
Well, in what sense does the word invented imply? Do you see all?
No, I'm just uh, 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 it reminds me that Plato started this concept of the soul. So is my idea.
Oh, okay.
The
Not
concept of the soul is immortal and separated from the body. There is three parts of a ration. So the soul is well. There are three parts of the soul. I cannot remember the parts of the soul.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
rational soul, the soul, many kinds of souls. Three
Yeah,
types.
that goes with the Bible because all the way through the Bible, I'm almost at the end of the next to last prophet. The souls, the good people, come back like people. They come back into the physical world. That's the mythology of the Bible,
Mhm.
Yeah,
the Old Testament.
But the Greeks, they were not related to the Bible. It's just for the Jewish people.
Well, but at that time, that's what whoever those who wrote the scrolls and created the mythology of the Bible. believed that when you come back to the physical earth in a physical body.
But certainly Dante supported that notion.
Are you
Which
sure,
we find
Jesse?
out
Supported
Jesse,
the
are you,
ideas of Aristotle and Plato many times. Maestro de color que sano.
Desi, are you sure that Plato did not sort of adopt ideas of the soul that he heard in other mythology? I mean, it seems to me there's something about transmigration of the souls, which I recollect may have been something, there may have been some comment that,
Pythagoras.
yeah, exactly. There's like some sort of Eastern kind of influence, like, Eastern Indian or Taoist or Buddhist influence even there, something.
Yeah, well, your soul
well,
goes.
Buddhism comes much later than Indian
Yeah, but
philosophy.
in the old Hindu, your soul never dies.
Right, the whole idea of transmigration of souls is something
Yeah,
I think that's an Eastern religion and or philosophy, which was around at the time of Aristotle and Plato. So, I just seemed to me that there's something in like in the Republic, Plato talks about
The
the
Republic.
the transmigration of souls and he talks about getting this from some other mythology that he was aware of.
yeah.
Well,
But
We've
I
started the beginning of a scholarly
yeah.
quest.
You're getting digressing quite a bit here, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
but for the point today, this is all depressing Virgil.
Oh, sure, right.
It's depressing Virgil, and I think we're going to increasingly find more of an equality between Dante and Virgil from this
Right.
point on.
That's in this
Slowly but
canto.
surely.
Yeah, that comes up. We read that last week.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry,
Plato's Theory of the
repeat
Soul
that,
from
Duncan.
David Little. Huh?
Could you repeat that? Did you say an increasing inequality between the two? Were those your
Well, there's
words?
an increasing equality and then surpassing on Dante's part.
Okay, right. Because
But this is the first sign that, I mean, we've seen Virgil quibble before, but I don't think we've ever seen him depressed and anxious
right.
before.
There was one place he was
Yes,
in the Infernal.
yes, back there in the
They
what is
closed the
that
gates.
wall?
Right,
Dis,
Yeah,
right.
he was dissed at this.
He was well done.
The city of this.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Little, would you like to read what you have posted? So,
Sure.
Yeah, and it's in Joyce, this metempsychosis.
Psychosis, yeah. So Plato's
Yeah,
theory of soul, which was inspired variously by the teaching of Socrates, considered the psyche to be the essence of a person, being which decides how people behave. Plato considered this essence to be an incorporeal, eternal occupant of a person's being. Plato said that even after death, the soul exists and is able to think. He believed that as bodies die, the soul is continuously reborn. Metempsychosis. Right on, Dee. The Calypso chapter, I think, in Ulysses, in subsequent bodies. Plato divided the soul into three parts: the logistikon, reason; the thymoides, spirit, which houses anger as well as other spirited emotions; and the epimetikon, appetite or desire, which houses the desire for physical pleasures. So, now, did Cleveland John, did Pythagoras predate or postdate Plato?
Oh, he predates him by over 100 years.
He does. Okay. Because he was a great believer in metempsychosis too, was he not?
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
he was also a vegetarian.
Right. Because he didn't want to end up eating his grandmother or something like that. Is that? Yeah. I mean, I'm being humorous about
Yeah.
it, but he was a vegetarian because he didn't want to be eating somebody whose soul, a human whose soul.
a soul.
Right.
Animals have souls too.
My Hindu teacher, information teacher, says even plants have souls.
Right. The Jainists believe that, don't they? Duncan, I defer to
Yeah,
you.
they have to, the
Uh,
reason why they wear white is so they can notice the little insects that crawl on them.
Right.
And that they have to be sure not to crush any insects.
Right.
This is a big deal to them. All right, well, let me make one brief thing. I would say Plato divided the soul into three parts, the logisticon, which I actually think is the essence of the soul. And that actually the thymoides is an imperfections that creep in when a person is embodied. That actually, ironically, our embodied selves are imperfect selves, excuse me, that matter when souls enter into matter, things get muddy. But there's still this pure essence type thing, which I believe is the reason part. The Buddhists have the same thing, and the highest Buddhist philosophers have the same thing too. There's legalists in Buddhism, and there's, pure reason people in Buddhism and all that. And then there's the wisdom Buddhist, which are saying, there's a whole bunch of things we have to think only because we're in bodies and temporary bodies and society has to go on. So we'll accept some things as being temporarily true. But at the highest level, we are simply collections of things, except for this clear light part of us. All right, I guess. Are we ready to read further?
yep. You're next, I think.
I'm next.
I think so. If I remember right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me see if I can find me. All right. So we did there. So you only read a little bit. Where did you stop, Anne?
963, 64.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I did fine.
Okay, and the left hand appeared to me. So move it to the
Yeah, where
right.
he sees the people, the souls behind the rock.
Okay. I'll
They
start with
moved quite
61. Is
slowly.
that okay? Lift up thine eyes. I to the master said.
Mhm.
Yep.
Perfect.
Lift up thine eyes. I to the master said. Behold, on this side, who will give us counsel? If thou of thine own self can have it not. Then he looked at me and with frank expression replied, let's go there, for they come slowly, and thou be steadfast in thy hope, sweet son. Still was that people as far off from us after 1,000 steps of ours, I say, as a good thrower with his hand would reach. When they all crowded into the hard masses of the high bank and motionless stood and close, as he stands still to look who goes in doubt. O happy dead, O spirits elect already, Virgilius made beginning, by that peace which I believe is waiting for you all. Tell us, upon what side the mountain slopes, so that the going up be possible. For to lose time irks him most who knows most. I think I'll stop there.
Hmm.
We had Anne read, and then we discussed. Do you want to discuss, Duncan? I'm asking because I'm the next reader in line. Do you want to pause
Yes,
there?
yes, we do need to discuss a little bit of this.
All right.
So
Okay.
it seems that Virgil is supposing here, I guess, or asking or wondering, and he's asking if there's another way up that they don't have to climb up this steep slope, this steep cliff.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think he's already recognized that it is impossible
Well,
to go
yeah.
up the
It's
cliff.
very difficult. See,
Oh my, yeah. It's
you have
climbing up.
you have to use the hands and the foot.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like they've got
Oh,
no
yes.
rappelling gear.
Thanks, Deciel.
Got
That's
no,
helpful.
they've got no gear.
Very difficult.
Right. The RA, nearest REI is far away
It is,
in
yeah.
time and space. But it seems to me that part of what's going on here is that everybody is buffaloed, including Virgil.
Yeah.
And they're kind of just standing around because they're not sure what to do. Which I would contend is a little bit parallel to Dante's situation way back in Canto 1,
Mm-hmm.
when he got blocked by the fierce beast. And he, who he wanted to move towards the sun, and the beast came and stopped him. And then he was just kind of standing there when Virgil appeared, wondering what to do.
You know.
But I think in Dante's case, in Canto, the start of Inferno, he couldn't be allowed to go up to the top because he needed to uh, experience hell and view hell, and now he needs to kind of be active and be penitent for his sins and that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a different situation because he's going to be a different person here.
Mhm.
Well, there's definitely a difference between here and between now and then, but there's also a similarity.
Maybe I could ask a question
Oh,
here.
that's right.
Kind of picking up where the maybe to just remind ourselves in a way, or might remind me anyway, where things started off with Virgil being essentially the emissary of Beatrice.
Mm-hmm.
And is it understood that essentially their route has to go through this? So they know they've got to go through hell, apparently. Or Virgil knows that. Now he's on kind of strange, unfamiliar territory.
Right.
Who is guiding, and is this simply the fact that this is the path that they have to go on, that the only path through it? Or is this a path that there's an understanding that somebody might have here that, well, now purgatory's next and we're going to get to paradise? Does Virgil even have any understanding that Beatrice is in paradise and that to get there, they even have to go through this purgatory and what that's all about?
Is there a question in there somewhere, John?
Yeah.
That was my question. Yeah. Does Virgil even understand this? I mean, or is he totally lost at this point?
I think Virgil's kind of lost.
Are they just sort of following? Is it, well, okay, here we are. Now what? Now where do we go? I mean, how do we get where are we going, by the way? So,
Well, look at lines 61 through 63. Have you ever known Dante to ask Virgil this sort of thing before?
no, I guess
He
not.
took down ours.
Yeah, according now, someone else's translation, and in fact, we should probably share a few translations of this because I think this is rather important. But the Longfellow translation really has Dante for the first time kind of taken some initiative here.
Mhm.
Oh, he is without a doubt.
Yeah, and mine
But
too.
lift up thine eyes, I to the master said, Behold, on this side, who's going to give us counsel? If thou of
Yeah.
thine own self have it
Yeah.
not. So he's saying, hey, Verge, you don't seem to know what you're doing. So
Yeah.
where are we going to look?
Yeah, it's true.
That's how I see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then 64 through 66. Then he, Virgil, looked at me and with frank expression replied, Well, let's go there, for they come slowly. And
Mhm.
now, okay, so he's saying, well, look at those people over there. They're going, maybe we should go over there and talk to them. And then he throws in a sop to Dante, Be steadfast in thy hope, sweet son.
Mhm.
So this is not quite the same guiding level as before, I
No,
don't think.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's just saying, keep a stiff upper lip. This is going to work out, buddy. I don't know how, but
Yeah.
it's going to work out.
Back in the Inferno, when they're about to go into limbo, Dante notices Virgil's facial expression, of the translation says pallid utterly, and he thinks Virgil's afraid. But then Virgil explains to him, You're misunderstanding. It's the pity I feel for the people who are in limbo.
Mm.
So it's not the first time Dante wondered about Virgil, but I think it's the first time, or the first time he was worried. But
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it is the first time he had reason to be worried. This time Virgil really is lost, or at
Mhm.
least confused.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he hasn't been here before.
No, Dante thought he was there before, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Virgil's saying, well, there's some people over there. Let's go ask them.
Yeah.
I think Virgil was more familiar with the Inferno than with the Purgatory.
But he had traveled through the Inferno before, hadn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
He was sent on a message, which I have a note there. I must look it up when I go home.
Yeah, right. By the evil witch.
Yeah.
So, Anne, if I could just revisit a point that you made, I think about 5 minutes ago, and I just want to make sure that I have it right. Are you suggesting that in the Inferno, Dante was more a spectator, but here
Mm.
in Purgatorio, he's becoming more a participant? Was
Yes.
that your point?
Yeah, because he's going to not being a spoiler like, but he's going to get to 7 pictal or something they're called on, and as he gets to understand each sin, it'll be taken off. So he's definitely more of an active type.
Peccatos?
Yeah. Is that what they're called? Yeah.
Yeah, sins, the 7 sins.
Sins. Yeah. Yeah, 7 capital sin. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
he's going to be more active now
Right. Okay.
because and he won't get these. It definitely begins with P, but I can't remember what they were called.
Piccati? Piccati?
Piccati could be.
Peccati.
Oh, yes. Yes, Piccati. They won't be removed until he actually understands that sin.
Right. Right. And of course, the sad part of it is that Virgil doesn't earn any browning points.
No.
Yeah.
He may get greater understanding, but he's not going to, it's not going to get his merit badges for doing this.
Hmm.
But anyway, they say, okay, well, let's go ask those people.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is good. And I just want to say, Anne, yeah, thank you. I hadn't really kind of thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense. And I guess the other thing, just pursuant to our discussion, is let's keep our eye on Virgil.
Mhm.
Because his
Yeah.
role here is a bit ambiguous, isn't it? In some ways, like he's kind of along for the ride, but as Duncan says so eloquently, he's not getting any brownie points, you know, and he's not.
That we know of, that we will ever know of.
Yeah,
He's also not leaving. I mean, he doesn't bail out on Dante, which I suppose.
He doesn't bail out on Dante. We're going to get to, I forget who he is. He is going to hand Dante a long time from now over to another poet. And then that poet's going to take Dante through some levels of purgatory and then hand Dante over to Beatrice,
Okay.
who's going to blister his ears.
I thought he just joined him for the last few cantos for the walk.
He's not with him a long time, just a few cantos.
Mm.
Well, let me pull on your memories. Does Virgil stay with Dante up until the point where Dante's handed over to Beatrice?
There's another woman who, Marcia, maybe?
You're dead right. You're dead right, Gigi.
Lethe. Oh yeah, Marcia. That's right.
Yes, there was. You're dead right.
This is Marcia.
I was looking for purgatory while you were talking about, my mind wandered, in the Aeneid. And I didn't see the word, but it seems like Aeneas found Anchises, his father, in what is purgatory, how it's described even in purgatory here in the Commedia.
I thought he went to visit his father in kind of hell.
Yeah, he went to hell, but then others look, he glimpses left and right. He went through hell, and he gets to a place where he gazes in awe, chariots, phantoms all, grazing, their horses freed from harness, grazing the grasslands. The same joy they took in arms and chariots when alive. Joy follows them now. They rest beneath the earth. So it sounds like what Dante and Virgil found entering purgatory.
Hmm.
And it's just a short section, just a few, and that's where he finds Anchises.
Okay.
Not that short, actually.
I've been kind of looking ahead, and so I missed what was said. And if I'm repeating what you said, Dee Dee, forgive me. The question that I was pursuing was one that was raised, which was, does Virgil stay with Dante until Beatrice appears?
I don't know.
The answer is yes. It's in Canto 30.
Perfect.
Canto 30. And so Beatrice appears on the car. Dante, overcome by his power of lifelong love, turns to Virgil for reassurance, but Virgil is no longer with him.
Virgil has disappeared.
He goes without saying goodbye.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He turns around and realizes he's gone.
That's right, because he turns around to talk to him on line 46. If you're there, I turned to the leftward, full of confidence and little boy. Whoever came running to mother with his fears and pains, to say to Virgil, there is scarce a dram that does not hammer and throb in all my blood. I know the embers of the ancient flame, but Virgil, oh, he had left us, and we stood orphaned of him.
Well, if anybody needs a long-term project, I see a literary work begging to be written. based upon Virgil's return to limbo. How did he get back?
Yeah.
It seems to me he went instantly.
No, but he didn't have to go through all the different levels.
Right.
Yeah.
He disapparated, as they would say in
Ah.
Harry Potter.
Mm.
And then just soon after, since we're in the moment here, Beatrice does speak. Line 73. Look on us well. We are indeed, we are Beatrice.
Where are you, Dave?
Sorry, Canto 30.
30.
Canto 30. And I just read line 73 and following. Look on us well. We are indeed, we are Beatrice. So Virgil disappears, having seen Beatrice, and then Beatrice identifies herself and confirms, yeah, I'm Beatrice here.
Mm.
I mean, very, very, very moving in a lot of ways, and we'll get to that, but very, very moving because Beatrice is what he is seeking, but when he sees her, he loses his companion Virgil. Bittersweet.
Well, as they say, once the raft takes you across the river, you don't need it anymore. Don't carry it around.
Correct.
Hmm.
True. But if you become
This is
attached
the-
to the raft,
I don't think he would have been allowed either.
no, that's the point.
I think
That's the
you're
point.
right.
Yeah.
He's not qualified.
Mm.
As they say in Oklahoma, in the movie Oklahoma, and he'd gone about as far as he could go.
Mhm.
Could go. Exactly. He'd gone about as far as he could go.
Well, I'm looking at Canto 30, I suppose, of Paradiso now, right? In the Longfellow, and I'm just scanning it here, but I don't see anything that resembles
Purgatory.
I'm still in purgatory.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said
Canto 30, Purgatory.
Oh, okay.
That's when he's handed over.
Oh, and it's her. Okay. That's right. He leaves in the end of Purgatory, doesn't he? All right. Well, then I'll go back and we'll take a look at that later. All right. So thank you, Dave.
Mhm.
All right.
You know, and it was 46 where he disappears, the two
Right, John. Yeah, if you want to
49.
about line 46, Dee Dee's got it.
All right.
Canto 30. He turns around to say to Virgil, and then
Okay. Oh, I
on
see.
49, but Virgil,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
left us and we stood orphaned. That's an interesting translation. Orphaned. I stood orphaned.
Oh, that's interesting. All right.
So we surely have Virgil acting as his diplomatic best here in lines 73 through 75. Oh, happy dead, oh, spirits elect already. Virgilius made beginning by that peace which I believe is waiting for you all. Which, if I stop to think about it, this is a very, very sad thing in some sense for Virgil to say,
Yeah.
because he's not a happy dead, and he's not a spirit elect.
No peace.
Well, David, is it ready to read on here?
Okay, sure. You want me to pick it up then? Absolutely. Absolutely, I can.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I am going to pick it up at 79. Then, just as from the fold the sheep come forth, by one, by two, by three, and others go timidly bunched behind them, nose to earth. And what the first one does, the others do, bumping against her if she stops and wait, silly and meek, though why they do not know. So of that flock, most blessed, most fortunate, I saw the leaders move as to come on with modest looks and tripping step, said it. But when they saw the radiance of the sun broken upon the hillside as I came along, and on my right saw the long shadow run to touch the rock, they halted, drawing them somewhat aback, and following these the rest, not knowing why or wherefore, did the same. Before you ask me, let it stand confessed, this thing you see that cleaves the falling light is a man's body, plain and manifest. Be not afraid, for not without the might believe you well of grace from heaven shed does he come here and seek to scale this height.
Yeah, I need to go
Dee Dee, can
back.
I just read one more canto? Okay,
Yes, sir.
I think I can finish it off this way. Thus far, my lord, the kindly people said, thus far, my lord, the kindly people said, turn round then, go before us, that way, see? And with their hands backhanded and waved ahead.
Signal with the back of the hand.
Yeah, I'm moving back to 87. The last line of that verse is, the row of happy flock, I saw the row of happy flock come on, their look meek and their movements dignified. You had different words there.
I did. Can you give me the line number again, Dee Dee, please?
It's
87.
87.
Okay. So I'll do the canto. So of that flock most blessed, most fortunate, I saw the leaders move as to come on with modest looks and tripping step, sedate.
Yeah, very
Modest.
different.
You've got
Tripping-
dignified and I got modest, I think is maybe the
Oh,
difference.
tripping, you have modest step, and mine has movements dignified. Very different.
Modest looks, yeah. It is, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, how is it so different?
Well, tripping step doesn't sound
Oh,
dignified.
tripping
It
step.
sounds like they're dancing.
Yeah, tripping step does it. Oh, la 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 la.
Yeah. And
Maidens with the
dignified would be
rosebuds.
very, you know, the opposite of tripping step.
Okay.
Why that would be, who
Tripping step,
knows?
I see, is very
Yeah.
different.
You have to ask Chiardi. Anyhow, never mind. That's all. That was my wondering, and not. I don't think there's an answer.
So let me ask a silly question. At what point after death do souls realize they don't have shadows? Or did they realize that they didn't have shadows when they saw Dante's shadow, and his was the only shadow?
Well, it's right. It follows the next two verses.
Next two verses starting at what line?
88.
As soon as those in advance saw broken the light upon the ground at my right side, so that from me the shadow, okay, they see Dante's shadow.
But then the next verse also.
They stopped and backward drew themselves somewhat, and all the others who came after them, not knowing why nor wherefore, did the same.
The same.
Yeah, because what I take is that the one leading them saw that there was a shadow, and the
Yeah.
others just
Colored suit.
got
The others just stopped because the leader who saw the shadow stopped, but they
Yeah.
don't know why the leader stopped.
Well,
that-
I'm sure that they saw the light broken on the ground to my right at line 88, line
Yeah,
89.
the leader saw that.
Right, and
those in the saw that.
right. And the
So-
others don't know that.
And the others don't know why they stopped.
Mhm.
They just know they stopped.
Right, they just followed, stopped.
This is, I think, unprecedented too. They seem to be, they stopped, line 91, they stopped and backward, drew themselves somewhat. in Inferno, several of the residents saw Dante and they just started talking to him, or they asked him who he was or whatever.
Yeah,
And they weren't in the least intimidated by him. But here, these souls who eventually are going to end up in paradise are compared with sheep, who are, I think, generally viewed as timid animals,
Yeah.
and they seem to be a little bit afraid. Is this because they have something to strive for and something to lose, whereas people in Inferno, like, what more could happen?
Yeah, right.
I don't know, but
The worst has already happened. What do I care?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody in Inferno was in any way afraid
That's right.
that a living person was there.
I'm not so sure that that the people in purgatory, in the anteroom to purgatory, are actually afraid of Dante. I think they're just kind of shocked. And I think there's two things going on, and I think they realized it at the same time. Of course, this is just for the ones that are at the head of the flock, so to speak. When they see Dante's shadow, I think they're also seeing, perhaps for the first time, that they don't have a shadow.
maybe.
The question, he uses this, Dante here is using this device of seeing the shadow. So, and I agree. It seems to say they're either afraid or they're surprised and shocked in some ways. It's something that they weren't expecting to see, and maybe a little bit of both. And it seems to be just sort of a way for him to. Well, then we see Virgil seeing this and then offering a reassuring explanation for this, which seems to turn them around. So that's I guess that's the only significance I see of why this idea, why does Dante introduce this concept of, well, do souls have shadows? And I have a shadow here, but the others don't. It's like, why does he want to draw this point out at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it's like the types of personalities in Inferno as different from the types of personalities in Purgatory.
Yeah.
Yeah, predominantly the type of personality in the Inferno is arrogant
Yeah,
and eager,
not repentant.
not repentant.
And
Hey,
these don't even know they need to repent. They're not sure what's going on yet. That's
well,
why they're there.
do you not find it curious that there's no tour guide, if you will?
Know what?
There's no
Tour
tour
guide.
guide. There's nobody there dressed in a uniform that says,
Oh,
okay,
right.
folks, this
Yeah.
way, we're
Yeah.
going up here.
Right. They got across
Just
the
gonna
river and
drop,
now
just
they're on
gonna
their
drop,
own.
and
Yeah.
they got to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah. So
Well,
far.
we don't really know if this group of people that have come up here, if they've been sort of like met Cato before, who seems to be, getting people moving here, and seems to be reminding people, well, you're coming into purgatory now, or whatever, that there's something about being in purgatory that you're not in heaven. And
Yeah.
it could be that but maybe not. Maybe these people never saw Cato, and they just got off, and they don't even know if they're where they are. They know maybe they think they're not in hell. Maybe they're not so sure.
I
But
don't think,
Donkey's point, there's no monster menacing them.
Right? Yeah.
Seems to,
Yeah.
there's
yeah.
no monster menacing
Yeah.
and there's no guide, there's no Virgil that says, okay, this is the way we go, follow me. They're just, yeah, Cato kind of just whips them and says, hey, you're not supposed to stand around just talking stuff. You're
Yeah.
supposed to go. And then so they leave Cato. and then they're faced with a steep cliff that is impossible to climb, even for unembodied souls.
Yeah.
So then they just seem to be, they make a big deal a couple of Tersima ago about that they're just kind of standing there and moving really slowly.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know where they're supposed to go. So they're kind of dithering. And I just find it very curious that there's no for the design of this thing is, well, we're going to drop you off and good luck in figuring this out.
Yeah, yeah, it's on them now. It isn't a monster, it's something inside themselves.
Yeah, they have to, just figure out where they are and decide, well, what are we going to do now? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, and that they don't know yet that that's what I read at the beginning from Chiardi, that they don't, that it's in them. They have to apologize to God for the sin that they declared their faith, but they didn't declare what they had, their transgression, and they have to realize they have to do that
Mhm.
before they can move on.
but Virgil does step up.
Yeah. Hmm.
94. Without your asking, I confess to you, this is a human body which you see, whereby the sunshine on the ground is cleft. Marvel ye not thereat, but be persuaded that not without a power which comes from heaven doth he endeavor to surmount this wall.
Does anyone else have the translation "Be not afraid"?
No, not so many.
It's interesting because it's got a biblical ring to it.
Oh,
Well,
of course. Well, do not be astonished.
yeah. Do not be astonished. Yeah.
Let's look at okay, that's on line
97.
97. Oh,
And
Marvel.
it's the
Okay, so
whole,
let
yeah.
me get the Italian. See what the Italian says.
Maravigliate, that's more like be astonished.
Okay.
But the whole verse, um, he does not seek his way to climb the wall without a power from heaven. So it's about faith. It's about their something they have to achieve in order to get divine help.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. Maravigliate. Non vi maravigliate.
Yeah, that line 97, marvel ye not thereat, suggests that, as Duncan said, they're stopping out of wonder rather than fear,
Okay.
which, well, when I was reading it, I was thinking they're afraid.
Yeah.
This suggests they're just surprised.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I would insist they're surprised by two things. They probably didn't notice until they noticed Dante's shadow that they didn't have a shadow.
Yeah.
So I think it's a double whammy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you think that? I don't get anything here that
Well, I am of the opinion that, these are like the newbies.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, they're still in the shock of being dead. It is true they made a repentance, and so they're going to go to purgatory, but they're still in the shock of being dead and being transported across the water by an angel and dumped on this place. And then, this old man tells them to stop dithering around and move, go do what you got to do. They don't know what they got to do. So they're just kind of in this bewildered state.
yeah, just something new. that it
Everything,
wasn't there.
everything is new to them, and
Yeah.
including the fact that they make this sudden discovery that um, they don't have a shadow, but there's this being that does have a shadow. What's that about?
It's all new.
So anyway,
Okay.
that's my excuse for the moment.
Great. And you're saying I think you compared it to the Inferno before, and you're saying the difference is the denizens of the Inferno are kind of seasoned campaigners.
Yes, yes. Everybody that we meet in the Inferno that I remember has been there
Right.
already for a long time. With the exception of in the, what is it, like Canto 2, when we see them getting on the boat,
Right.
those would be fresh souls. But they are directed. There's no dilly-dallying in the Inferno, you know, they are told, go here, so and so, I can't remember, Cerebrus or whoever he is with the tail, lashes the tail around him and says, okay, you're going to level 7, buddy. Get going. And
Yeah.
it's not a way. Whereas these people are just kind of dumped, told that they got to move, but they're not really instructed on where to move.
Right.
So I see that as a big difference. And yeah, they're more innocent, if you will. They're like the tourist who Times Square that has no idea what the hell is going on.
Well, they seem to be all they seem to be encouraged by Virgil's comment that it's not without divine power that this mortal is here, and he's not able to climb this wall without divine power. And so they say those worthy people return then enter in before us. So they said, well, you go first.
The master thus, and said, those worthy people, return thee then and enter in before us, making a signal with the back of hand. Oh, yeah, okay. They want a leader. They want someone
Yeah,
to lead them.
that's good enough for us.
Hey, you've been leading this guy?
Yeah.
Carry on. We'll follow you. Okay, well, I think we have concluded for the day.
Okay, so I'll mark it at 103 then. Just pick up at 103 next time.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.